Who writes the music? Johan and Benny write the music. And who writes the text? It's our manager called Stig and Andersen. And what do the girls do in this whole thing? Nothing. They do the rest. They do the singing, but how about the arrangements? Well, some of the vocal arrangements and all that in the studio, yes. In the height of their fame, Benny Andersson and Anni Frid Lyngstad's whirlwind romance captured hearts across the globe. Yet behind closed doors, their relationship concealed a heartbreaking truth. Now, at 78 years old, Benny Andersson reveals tragic details about Anni Frid Lyngstad that have left fans stunned. What could this be? Let's find out. Anni Frid Lyngstad and Benny Andersson first crossed paths in 1969 during a music competition in Sweden, where they fell in love quickly and tied the knot 2 years later in 1971, just before ABBA was founded. Their marriage faced challenges amid the fame and scrutiny brought on by ABBA's success, leading to eventual divorces for both couples within the group. After the births of their children, Linda and Peter cracks began to show in their relationship, which ultimately led to their split in 1979 during ABBA's peak. Björn wasted no time in moving on, starting a new relationship with Lina Kalertzio, whom he later married and had additional children with. Initially, Björn and Agnetha described their divorce as amicable, but Agnetha later revealed her emotional struggles and the need for therapy to cope with the aftermath. The pain of their separation inspired the hit song "The Winner Takes It All," leading fans to question Björn's intentions in having his ex-wife sing such personal lyrics. As Agnetha grappled with the pressures of fame and the guilt of being away from her kids during ABBA's global tours, her anxiety and fear of crowds, noise, and flying intensified. She also felt alienated within the group due to language barriers and lack of confidence in social settings. Following Björn, there were a series of romantic partners, including a prominent ice hockey player and a renowned fashion designer, in addition to psychologist Håkan Landback, the individual originally brought in to help salvage her relationship with Björn. She later engaged in a romantic relationship with Stockholm detective Thorbjörn Brander, who was tasked with investigating her case following threats of kidnapping towards her children. In 1990, Agnetha got married for the second time to a divorced surgeon named Thomas Sonnenfeld. She insisted on keeping the marriage a secret, and it only became known to the public when they broke up 3 years later. During this period, Agnetha faced the challenge of dealing with both the death of her mother Birgit, who took her own life, and her father Ingvar's passing a year later. She chose to keep this information hidden, even telling her biographer that her mother's death was accidental. Those who knew her well noticed a shift in her behavior following these tragedies as she became even more withdrawn. Undoubtedly, she must have been disturbed, as this marked the beginning of the most peculiar period in her life, a romantic involvement with a man who had been obsessively following her. Gert van der Graaf, a forklift driver from the Netherlands, and a fan of ABBA who was 16 years younger than her, had been fixated on Agnetha since he was a child and followed her closely for a couple of years. Despite her filing a complaint with the authorities in 1997, they ended up beginning a romantic involvement. In just 2 years, their relationship had ended, and Agnetha was already taking legal action to send him out of the country by the year 2000. However, Gert returned to Sweden 3 years later to harass Agnetha, leading her to turn to the court for protection. After the failure of this brief romantic relationship, she decided to retreat further into the rural areas of Sweden, constructing a residence with a secluded garden in the center. Some people believed she was emulating Greta Garbo, a fellow Swedish actress who also struggled with the challenges of fame. According to neighbors, she rarely spoke to them, and for a long time, Agnetha avoided singing or listening to music altogether. She isolated herself from the rest of the world. However, much to everyone's surprise, she surprised everyone by releasing a record in 2004 that consisted of covers from the 1960s. She also began promoting it to some extent, mentioning her desire to discover true love. Her album titled My Coloring Book remained on the charts in Sweden for 25 weeks before disappearing from the public eye. In 2005, things took a different turn as a 20-year friendship with businessman Bertil Nordstrom transformed into a romantic affair. Unfortunately, that love story also came to an end. A few people have proposed that Agnetha's feelings of inadequacy and discontent were fueled by her rivalry with Frida. How is this true? Despite achieving great success, Frida has also experienced moments of sadness and sorrow from her past. These challenges in her life existed even prior to her involvement with ABBA. Frida was always aware that she was the result of a romance that took place during wartime. Her mother, Cindy, fell under the spell of Alfred, a Wehrmacht sergeant, in 1943 when he offered her a sack of potatoes, a precious commodity, in Norway during a period of scarcity. The two engaged in intimate affairs soon after having swum naked in a lake. Alfred, who worked as a pastry chef in civilian life, confessed to Cindy that he was already married. The relationship lasted until 1945, when Frida arrived and Alfred was sent back to Germany. Teenage mother Cindy faced heavy judgment and social isolation, with strangers calling her hurtful names and avoiding her. In response, the young mother, her child, and grandmother escaped to Sweden. Cindy found work as a server, but tragically passed away from kidney complications at the age of 21, leaving Frida at only 2 years old. Raised by her grandmother Agni, the upcoming celebrity experienced a lonely upbringing. She grew up believing that her father was a German soldier who died in a shipwreck on his way back to Germany. Without ABBA, Frida may have remained unaware of the truth. In 1977, Alfred's niece, a fan of the band ABBA, came across an interview with Frida where she mentioned being the illegitimate child of a German soldier. Subsequently, a meeting was organized, and Alfred showed up with a bunch of flowers. They examined ancient photographs and discussed their physical features. However, the gathering was brief and overwhelming for Frida emotionally. In 1969, she crossed paths with Benny, which marked the start of her ABBA journey. Prior to meeting Benny, Frida had experienced marriage and divorce, and both she and Benny had children from previous relationships. After an extended period of being engaged, they got married in 1978. Unfortunately, their marriage did not last, and they decided to part ways in 1980. Benny then started a relationship with Swedish television personality Mona Nurklet. They got married in 1981 and now have a son together named Ludvig. Agnetha and Björn, as well as Frida and Benny, both insisted that their divorces were amicable and positive. However, behind the facade, Frida was actually heartbroken over being abandoned for another woman. ABBA reached a point where they could no longer sustain their success, leading them to disband after selling 350 million records. Frida spent a long time searching for contentment in her personal life, following the disbanding of ABBA. After a short stay in London, she eventually chose to make Switzerland her permanent home. It was in 1992 that she tied the knot with a nobleman from a German royal family, taking on the title of Her Serene Highness Princess Anni Frid of Rus. However, tragedy always seemed to be lurking nearby. Her first husband's daughter, who was 30 at the time, died in a car accident in New York in 1998. Soon after, Prince Heinrich Frida's third husband passed away from cancer the following year. She vanished from the public eye for several months, and then revealed that her belief in God was instrumental in her recovery from the difficult experience. In the past few years, she appears to have discovered happiness residing joyfully in the Swiss alpine town of Zermatt, alongside W.H. Smith, heir Viscount Hambledon. Benny Andersson has led a life marked by both triumph and personal turmoil. While he is celebrated for his contribution to the music industry, his journey has not been without struggles. At the height of ABBA's fame, Benny Andersson, like many artists, faced the pressures of constant touring, public expectations, and the demands of his career. Unfortunately, this led him down a difficult path, as alcohol became a way for him to cope with the pressures that came with being a global superstar. During the 1970s and early 1980s, Benny, alongside his bandmates, partied hard and lived in the whirlwind of fame. At 78, he openly admitted that alcohol played a significant role in his life during that period. As he later reflected, it was his way of numbing the overwhelming nature of success and the emptiness he sometimes felt when the lights of the stage went out. In 2001, Benny made a life-changing decision to quit drinking. He described this as one of the best decisions of his life, recognizing how much it had impacted his health relationships and overall well-being. Benny's personal life, particularly his relationships, has also been the subject of public attention. Before ABBA, Benny had already started a family. At just 17 years old, he became a father to his first child, with girlfriend Christina Grönvall. They had another child shortly after. However, Benny's intense focus on his music career meant that he spent little time at home, which left him feeling guilty about not being there for his children when they needed him. Later in 1981, Benny went through a public divorce from Anni Frid Lyngstad. Their marriage had struggled under the weight of their fame, and the split was a difficult chapter in both their personal and professional lives. The divorce added to the emotional burden Benny was already carrying from his previous family experiences. Perhaps the most painful part of Benny's life came with the tragic loss of his son, Alex. Ethan struggled with overwhelming guilt, believing that the accident that led to his son's death was partly his fault. He questioned himself for insisting on driving that day in bad weather. This pain, though raw, would become something he would slowly come to terms with over time. Both Benny and Sarah, his ex-wife, struggled with this guilt. The loss of their child was devastating, and it took them years to process the grief. However, over time, Benny learned to accept that the accident was not his fault, and he was not responsible for the tragic outcome. This realization helped him to begin healing, but it was a journey that would take years. ABBA had solidified their status as a top pop group by the late 1970s and had gained a devoted worldwide following that would endure for years to come. Their promotional push in the US in the spring of 1978 was a major milestone for ABBA. This campaign paid off when their song "Take a Chance on Me" reached the top 3 on the charts, and their album, ABBA the Album, made it to the top 20. After achieving these accomplishments, the band dropped successful singles like Summer Night City and Chiquitita, making them even more popular. In April of 1979, they released their 6th studio album, Voulez-Vous, which added more timeless hits to their collection. However, during that same year, Björn Ulvaeus and Agnetha Fältskog made public their decision to end their marriage, causing a shift in ABBA's image as a harmonious music-making couple. Although they initially portrayed their divorce as a positive development, Fältskog later admitted to feeling emotionally drained and sought professional help. Despite these personal challenges, the band stayed together and continued to create music. In the fall of 1979, ABBA put out the song "Gimme, Gimme, Gimme a Man After Midnight" and embarked on a big tour in Canada, the US, and Europe. At the same time, they released their second greatest hits album, Greatest Hits Vol. 2, which was a hit everywhere. In March 1980, ABBA added Japan to their tour and played their last live shows for a paying audience. The year 1980 was focused on working on their upcoming studio album, Super Trooper. This album, which was released later in the same year, showcased some of ABBA's most popular songs, such as The Winner Takes It All and the title track, Super Trooper. The band faced another setback in February 1981 when Benny Andersson and Annie Fried-Lingstad, one of the 2 couples in the group, revealed that they were getting a divorce. Despite this personal development, ABBA continued to work together on their music. In late 1981, their 8th studio album, The Visitors, was put out, including the popular track One of Us. However, in 1982, the group's energy began to diminish. Björn and Benny turned their attention to creating the musical Chess, while Agnetha and Frida pursued solo paths. That year, the only new ABBA release was the singles The First 10 Years, a double compilation album with their biggest hits and 2 new tracks. Even though The Day Before You Came received praise as one of ABBA's most polished recordings, it did not reach the same global success as their earlier work. At the close of 1982, ABBA made the choice to go on a hiatus, with hopes of reuniting in a few years if they so desired. Surprisingly, over 30 years later, they had still not reunited, despite their initial plans for a temporary break. ABBA never made a formal declaration about breaking up or taking an indefinite break, but after their last public show in 1982, it was generally assumed that the group had disbanded. During interviews back then, Björn and Benny insisted there was no split, but both Lyngstad and Feldskog hinted multiple times in 1983 and 1984 about a possible ABBA reunion for a new record. The internal conflicts with their manager reached a boiling point, forcing the band members to sell their stakes in Polar Music in 1983. Except for a short TV appearance in 1986, the group remained out of the public eye for a while. The band's lack of activity, along with the collapse of their marriages and their personal pursuits, strongly suggested that the group had broken up. Despite the break, ABBA's music continued to be loved and prosper. During the 1990s, there was a renewed fascination with their music sparked by popular cover songs and the inclusion of their music in well-known movies. The compilation album ABBA Gold was launched in 1992 and became a huge success, selling more than 33 million copies globally. The subsequent album, More ABBA Gold, which came out in 1993, sold 3 million copies. Thank You for the Music, a box set released in 1994, provided fans with a wide array of hit songs, chosen album tracks, and exclusive unreleased recordings. In 1994, the ABBA women faced significant challenges in their personal lives. Agnetha struggled with the tragic death of her mother Birgit, who took her own life by jumping out of her apartment window. This heartbreaking loss caused Agnetha to spiral into a severe state of depression. Agnetha revealed that her father's excessive drinking had a negative impact on her mother's mental health. Agnetha felt overwhelming sadness and found it difficult to move forward. The idea of her mother's sudden action was incomprehensible to her, leaving her both saddened and scared. She felt isolated and lonely in her grief. Following her mother's passing, she made frequent visits to her father, who was residing in a specialized facility at the time. Unfortunately, he only survived for 1 more year. The loss of her father in 1995 intensified Agnetha's sorrow even more. In the late 1990s, Anni Frid's daughter Annlisa Lotta Kasper tragically passed away in a car crash in the United States at only 30 years old. The year after that, she faced more heartache when her husband, Heinrich Rudso Prince Royce of Plauen, succumbed to cancer. He died at the age of 49, leaving 53-year-old Anni Frid alone after 7 years of marriage. This was a deeply painful time for Frida. ABBA's legacy was further enhanced in the late 1990s with the introduction of the musical Mamma Mia in London in 1999. Utilizing ABBA songs exclusively, the show became a huge success, mesmerizing audiences on a global scale. By 2001, it had made its way to Broadway and rapidly expanded to more than 440 cities, drawing in over 60 million theater enthusiasts. The musical debuted in Sweden in February 2005 with all 4 ABBA members, Agnetha, Björn, Benny, and Frida, present at the opening night. The group's influence grew even further when the film version of Mamma Mia was released in July 2008, featuring renowned actors such as Meryl Streep and Pierce Brosnan. This movie went on to become a sensation worldwide. It is worth mentioning that all 4 ABBA members were also at the Stockholm premiere of the film, making a rare joint public appearance. Could this hint at a potential reunion? Let's find out. Polar Music International has continuously refreshed and improved ABBA's music collection. The 8 original studio albums by ABBA, as well as their 1980 Spanish-language album Gracias por la Música, have been released again as enhanced deluxe editions. These new versions include extra content, such as bonus tracks, updated artwork, and expanded booklets with detailed essays about the albums. Additionally, they come with DVDs that have rare television appearances and other exclusive material, making the fan experience even more fulfilling. In 2014, Polar Music International made history with the release of Live at Wembley Arena, a double album featuring the first full live recording of an ABBA concert. Both fans and critics praised the electrifying energy of the band captured in this significant release. Along with the live album, updates were made to ABBA's popular compilation albums ABBA Gold and ABBA Oro, including revised booklets and fresh liner notes. The Essential Collection, a 2-CD set, combined a wide range of ABBA singles to appeal to both casual listeners and dedicated fans. One of the most ambitious endeavors was the launch of the Complete Studio Recordings in 2005, a comprehensive box set containing all of ABBA's studio albums as well as rare tracks. In December 2010, ABBA The Vinyl Collection was unveiled, featuring carefully recreated vinyl versions of the band's 8 studio LPs. Polar Music marked important anniversaries of ABBA's albums by releasing special editions. In 2016, a double vinyl version of Arrival was released for its 40th anniversary, with a similar release for ABBA. The album following in 2017, ABBA's famous music videos, many of them directed by the celebrated Lasse Hallström, have been meticulously refurbished and collected. The Essential Collection on DVD showcases enhanced versions of these iconic videos, enabling fans to view them with better quality than ever. The live concert films of ABBA, such as ABBA the Movie and ABBA in Concert, have been restored and reissued on DVD, with added extras providing insights into the band's electrifying live shows. ABBA in Japan is a standout release that features a classic television special, while the last video is a brief movie that showcases cameo appearances from the band members. Throughout time, ABBA's reputation as a top pop group has continued to rise, as evidenced by their inclusion in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2010. In that same year, the official ABBA World Exhibition made its first appearance in London, further solidifying their legendary status in the music industry. The band's former members approved an engaging experience that included personal belongings and special video interviews. Feldskog, known for being the most private member and a potential obstacle to a reunion, showed signs of willingness for a one-time event on January 3, 2011, even though she hadn't talked about it with the rest. In an interview with Deedsite in April 2013, she reaffirmed her readiness to come together again, mentioning that she would say yes if they reached out to her. In May 2013, Feldskog, who was 63 at the time, ruled out the chance of a reunion, explaining that due to their age and separate lives, it was unlikely to happen. She acknowledged that too much time had passed since their split, making it pointless to reunite. Despite this, she mentioned that the band members still got along well and enjoyed catching up occasionally to chat and reminisce. In the end, ABBA World settled into a long-term residence in Stockholm, Sweden, within ABBA the Museum, which launched in May 2013. The museum has proven to be a huge hit, drawing in more than 1.5 million visitors by the beginning of 2018. By January 2016, a distinct dinner show idea called Mamma Mia! The party was introduced in Stockholm. This interactive event was honored by the presence of all 4 ABBA members. They caused a stir in the media when they posed for a unique group photograph, the first in more than 30 years. Following the release of Mamma Mia, Ulvaeus and Andersen shared with the Sunday Telegraph that they have no intention of returning to the stage for any reason. Ulvaeus made it clear that they have no plans to perform live again and no desire to reunite. According to him, they want to be remembered for their youthful, vibrant, energetic, and ambitious selves without any consideration of money. ABBA remained a significant cultural force in 2018 with the premiere of Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, a follow-up to the popular musical movie Mamma Mia. The familiar cast reunited to play their characters again, and Cher made a noteworthy appearance in a cameo role, bringing ABBA's music to a new wave of enthusiasts. Despite ruling out a comeback, their supporters kept their hopes high, and eventually their optimism was rewarded. In 2019, celebrations were held to mark the 40th anniversary of Voulez-Vous, with the album being reissued in various formats such as a 180-gram vinyl and a special box set containing colored 7-inch singles from the Voulez-Vous era. Mamma Mia! The party went global by opening at London's O2 Arena in September with the presence of Björn Ulvaeus and Benny Andersson. The year also saw the launch of ABBA's Super Troopers exhibition at the same venue, highlighting the band's lasting influence on music. ABBA Gold, a compilation album released in 1992, has achieved a remarkable feat by spending over 900 weeks on the UK official albums chart, setting a new record as the longest-lasting top 100 album ever. This impressive accomplishment is a testament to the enduring popularity of ABBA's music, which still enchants audiences around the globe. The legacy of ABBA is carefully upheld and honored through various releases, exhibitions, and tributes. In 2020, ABBA, the famous Swedish pop group, achieved important milestones and had various celebrations, while still captivating global audiences with their timeless music and creative projects. One standout moment was in October, when fans marked the 40th anniversary of the groundbreaking album Super Trooper, which not only shaped the Christmas season of 1980, but also stood as a cherished classic for years to come. To commemorate this achievement, the album was re-released in different versions that included the 3 hit singles, each of which was also offered as a unique limited edition picture disc. The ABBAs still maintain an outstanding reputation to date. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.